Hey guys, Youngblood with you for another episode of Exploring the Starmap, and this time we're checking out the Garron System. Now this was first discovered in 2874 by government pathfinders, which basically meant that this system was immediately established in the name of the UEE, with the government being able to choose whatever direction they wanted to take with it. Now during this time it was Imperator Messer the 11th that was in charge, who was notably a bit terrible, and that'll come into play here in just a little bit. Garron is a G-type dwarf star yielding a relatively small system with only 4 planets, and all of those are in a fairly tight orbit. It's got a narrow green band as well. Garron 1 is a planet that's so close in orbit to the star that the entire surface is essentially covered in some form of lava, with the side facing the star being just an open giant sea of lava. So it doesn't really matter if there's any resources to speak of here, because it's just too damn hot to be able to really do anything here. Garron 2 is the site where all of the action took place, and is the reason people know and care about this system in the lore. This was a fairly normal rocky terrestrial planet that did have an atmosphere, and to the shock of those that were discovering this place, there was actually sentient life that was present on this planet. Now, they were unable to achieve space travel on their own, but it was the first living species with a civilization that we were able to find to date. There were others that had become extinct, and we found evidence of their presence in the past, but finding a living civilization was a big deal in human space, and people became very interested in Garron. Messer, being a huge egotist, claimed that they were going to be able to get involved and they were going to help usher this species in to help get them to space travel and advance them along, saying, quote unquote, "We will be gods." So they assembled a team to get involved. They learned their culture. They wanted to figure out how to communicate with these people, where were they in their advancement, and then start finding ways to introduce our technology to them. That all sounds pretty good, right? It doesn't stay that way. Part of their study was in finding out what resources were present on the planet, I would guess to be able to give them the ability to manufacture things here. But when the scans came back showing huge amounts of valuable resources, the head of the team lost focus and decided it was the right time to reach out to corporations and mining consortiums and get them into a bidding war to sell off the rights of the planet, basically getting rich instead of helping the people along like they planned. The indigenous life here started to kind of freak out, which would be understandable because all these alien ships started landing and started kind of checking everything out on the planet, and eventually when ink dried on the contracts, terraforming began. Now, terraforming in general is a good thing for humans when you're not on the planet, because we can end up making the planet suitable to our liking. The problem for the indigenous here was that the atmosphere was different, so we basically just poisoned them and they all died off tragically. Now, that may have gone on unknown or swept under the rug by the government, but at the same time, there were some beginnings of political revolution against the Messers, and people were really just about the breaking point with the regime. Some activists that were in the area during this terraforming and the tragedy that was happening, they actually smuggled footage out of Garron, and it ended up getting distributed across the spectrum and media to where it was really ended up being the straw that broke the camel's back, and the political revolution took place, which ended up ending the Messers regime. Now, after that destruction took place, the new government wanted to do whatever they could to make amends. I guess more for karma or cosmic balance, because you can't really make right wiping an entire species out. But they basically dedicated all the resources from mining on Garron 3, as well as some of the Empire's already currently held funds, and they began to restore the planet Garron 2 back to its original state, with the old atmosphere and composition, as well as replanting things that they could, and that's basically how it's left today. It's essentially a monument to the tragedies of the past. Now, there is a station in orbit known as Heller that was once used to study and kind of terraforming, and is now being used not only for scientists to monitor the progress of the repairs to the planet, but it also serves as a tourist destination for those that are wanting to learn about the responsible terraforming practices and the history of the Fair Chance Act. This system is now covered under the Fair Chance Act, and it was actually the first as a result of the tragedy here, and because of that, you're not allowed to visit Garron 2 on the planet's surface. Now, Heller is likely going to be an outpost for law enforcement as well to protect the area, but it may end up having a second station in orbit around Garron 2 for that purpose. Now, moving past that, we've got Garron 3, which is located at the very edge of the frost band and is a super Earth. With its location in the system, it's really just too cold to provide for life that we know of, but it is home to some mining locations to help support the rebuilding of Garron 2. Now, based on this being in the frost zone, since there is no life there, you're not really prevented from landing here by the Fair Chance Act. Garron 4 is a small rocky planet with not much of interest. However, there is supposed to be a large monument here to commemorate the issues that took place on the second planet. Now the system does have 4 jump points, one leading to Idris, another leading to Banshee, those are both UEE space, one leading to Lear, which is unclaimed, but does have the Outsiders living there, and finally to the most interesting location would be Bacchus, which is in Banu space. Bacchus is one of the larger systems held by the Protectorate, and while Corral is the most commercial space for the Banu, Garron does serve as a direct line into one of the bigger trading hubs, which means that there's a lot of traffic trying to reach Banu space coming through Garron. So when we look at this system, who's really going to want to come here? I think the easy one is going to be saying like mining on Garron 3. We know that there's stations there that are dedicated to mining and that there's resources there, so you could probably take on contracts easily that would pay reliably from the government. You may also be able to take on mercenary or bounty hunting types of roles to kind of help keep those, I guess, criminals from entering Garron 2 where they're not supposed to be, but that may not be needed based on the presence of law enforcement. With not much commerce or any manufacturing really based in this system, I think there's going to be a need for contract work to bring goods into the people that are working in this system, but you need to remember that since there's nothing being produced here, you're probably not going to be exporting anything on the back end of your trip. I think most of the money-making opportunities are going to surround the trade lanes to Bacchus. Many who want to deal with the Banu are going to be passing through this location frequently, so traders may not see this place specifically as being super valuable outside of the passage aspects of it. Starfares, Crucibles, search and rescue ships, really any of the support ships could find value in this segment of space to kind of help out in supporting operations as they pass through, especially since there's not any refueling locations that we're aware of, unless there ends up being some sort of like truck stop in this space. Lots of commerce traveling here with light population loads is probably going to mean that opportunistic pirates who may base themselves out of Lear could find good payouts here, and on the flip side, I think we see work for escorts and bounty hunters to try and keep people safe. Either way, I think regardless of what you're looking at, the real value to this system is that connection to Bacchus, not necessarily the Garron system itself. So that's it for this video. If you guys have questions, please let me know. Otherwise, stay tuned for more, and have a great day. Take care.